Welcome, everybody, to another behind the scenes of Shadow City Mysteries House of Skye. Today, we'll be talking to another one of our awesome players and finding out a little bit more about their character and the Shadow City Mysteries world of Soretta, also known as the Shadow City. So, Mandy, welcome, and please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Mandy. I'm an avid tabletop, board, and computer gamer, a retired Air Force sergeant, and a soccer referee. I love storytelling, building characters, and finding ways to connect my real life experiences with the games I play.
That's pretty awesome. All right. And what would you say is your history with tabletop RPGs or role playing games in general?
I first got into role playing games back in middle school. It gave me a chance to let my imagination fly and be whatever I wanted to be. I continued playing throughout high school and even when I started my Air Force career and into my adulthood.
Okay.
Gaming was one of the few places where I felt I could express myself without the risks of that were inherent at the time with showing who I was in real life.
Very nice. And do you remember your first RPG character?
I don't remember my very first RPG character. It was at a game store and it was like a pre-made character.
Okay.
But the first character I do remember
Yeah.
was a dwarven fighter named Kilstow. He was Dungeons and Dragons, and he made it to 6th level before he decided to try to topple a statue of the god in that world.
Mm-hmm.
This was not a good move. He did not like magic at all.
All
The
right.
DM, in a brilliant move, punished him by turning him into a level 1 wizard.
Oh my.
So, yeah.
Still a dwarf though, right?
Still a dwarf.
All right. Wow.
So, but he was one of the most interesting characters I ever played.
Okay.
And one of the most memorable also. And I'll admit it, when I play fighter type characters now, I kind of keep an eye out for statues of the god of magic.
Very fun. And what excites you about role playing in general?
That is such a big question. Role playing honestly saved my life. That may sound like an exaggeration, but it's really not. I grew up in an ultra religious family. And although I didn't know it at the time, I was transgender. I knew I was different. I knew I wanted different things out of life. But in that environment, and even later in the Air Force, I was in during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it wasn't safe to express those things openly. Role playing gave me a place where I could. It became my escape, a kind of steam valve that let out the pressure that was building inside me. On top of that, I love the collective storytelling and the building of characters between players and DM. It's exhilarating to me and it keeps me coming back for more.
Wow. I'm glad you had that. And so what drew you to this actual play project?
Honestly, when I first filled out this application, I thought this was a playtest. Not something that was going to be streamed to the world, or I probably would not have filled out the application. But I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did.
I still struggle with putting myself out there sometimes. So this is a little bit hard for me. But after meeting the other players, I'm really excited to see where the character and story goes.
Well, I know we're all very excited to have you with us and see where your character goes with this as well. So how does playing in a noir setting feel different from other genres you played? Or how do you feel it's going to play different?
Right. As we haven't really played yet, right now, the biggest difference for me is the lack of color. It changes so much about how you describe yourself, how you describe your clothes, your hair, how you personalize the spell, or how you try to make that little trinket, yours. With role-playing games in general, color is one of the first things you usually lean on when you start a descriptor. So this really makes you think in a different way. And especially in a shadowy city where characters are mostly morally gray, it instantly sets the tone. It forces you to describe things differently, and it makes the whole setting feel sharper and more intense.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. And we'll see. And I think we'll get to that point. So do you see yourself in your character that you've created, or are they very different from you?
I think every character I've created that for me to play has some parallels and some major differences. With Raven, one of the clear parallels was her military background.
Mhm.
Her career in intelligence in real life, I was a military intelligence cryptologist, making and breaking codes. Like her, I wasn't on the battlefront, but the information I worked on was incredibly valuable to those who were. Where we differ is her ruthlessness.
Hmm.
Raven doesn't hesitate to get her hands dirty if it helps her reach her goals. She'll do what she thinks she has to do. If she's hungry and can't afford food, she'll take it. That's just kind of the way she is. And that's because she grew up in the streets. She has to.
Mhm. All right. Understood. And why did you pick the class you picked for your character?
I chose the infiltrator class because it was a natural fit for Raven. First, I set up some of her backstory. That's what I do with all my characters. And then I tried to see like what would work for her. And her whole life has been about moving around unseen, gathering information. She was never the strongest person. So her power was in, walking around and kind of finding secrets and acting on those.
And speaking of secrets, why did you choose the faction you chose?
Oh, the cult. I love that they are kind of the anti-religion. That they are kind of like they want the world to be a completely different place than it is. I also love that they are like the one faction that works most in like a unity. So they I lost my.
That's all right. No, I mean collectively, right? So they're a small group, but they don't have the numbers, but because they don't have the numbers, they work well together to achieve their goals. So
Right. And they also work in the shadows, which was another thing that really worked for me.
Yeah.
So
It's a great combination, infiltrator and Cult of Tenebrous. So if your character had a signature drink, what would it be?
I had to really think about this one. Her signature drink would be a Boulevardier,
Okay.
which is a Miska
Which is
whiskey,
yeah.
which is a Miska whiskey,
Uh-huh.
Campari, and vermouth with a little orange twist.
Oh, that sounds
It's
nice.
bitter. It's bitter and strong, layered like her secrets, and less common than like an Americano.
Okay. Yeah. Very nice. And would you say Raven's more of a planner or an improviser?
Another one of those really open-ended questions.
Yeah.
She's definitely a planner to start with. She
Mm-hmm.
likes to calculate, observe, and set up things so that the odds are in her favor. She doesn't act without a plan, but she also knows that no plan survives first contact. So
Mm-hmm.
when things fall apart, she adapts quickly. And she is able to improvise and turn unexpected situations into opportunities. It's that balance of preparation and adaptability that I think makes her so dangerous.
Definitely. And if Raven had to pick a theme song, what would it be? Just thinking of where they are and what they're coming into right now.
Raven's theme song would be "A Warm Place" by Nine Inch Nails.
Okay.
It's haunting and sparse, almost empty at first, but with layers that build underneath.
All right.
That really reflects her. On the surface, she's cold and unreadable, but underneath, there's depth, there's pain, and the's purpose. She has a mix of sadness and strength that both captures the shadows she lives in, but also the resilience she uses to live through it.
Okay. I'm excited to meet Raven, get to know them a little bit better, especially in play. Before we get there, for those that are watching and those that are just starting to get to know Shadow City, one of the things I like to kind of explain until we kind of hammer that home, and you touched on it earlier, is the lack of color in the world. And that's a big part of our world. Our world isn't just black and white because it's thematic. It's black and white because it happened to the world, and as it's told, it's been centuries since color left the world. The church teaches that the death of color was the final curse of the goddess of darkness upon her defeat by the gods of light. It lingers as a sign to be ever vigilant against the lure of evil. What else could be lost if the gods must intervene again on so grand a scale? People of science claims it's something strange about how light refracts in the atmosphere, and one day they hope that rocketry and photography improve to the point that they can confirm whether color can still be seen from space. Neither can truly explain why some things, the high tech and the mystical, still show in color. The day-to-day life of citizens of the world is one of monochromatic. Pops of color from turnstone-infused objects draw every eye in appreciation, while color where no text should be breeds fear of arcane threats, hidden beneath the popular veneer of science. And I touched on something else here, which is turnstone and clockwork, which is a big part of our world. So, one of our main games that we're working on is Shadow City Mysteries, a Clockwork Noir. And so clockwork being a key word there, besides the noir. I'll explain a little bit more of what's going on there. So not long after the War of Gods came the discovery of solargium, commonly just called turnstone. This semi-hard rock is permanently oriented to face the sun, revolving once every 24 hours and grinding itself into smooth sand rather than allow any force to stop its turning. Initially, it was something of a curiosity. Shards of it could be used to unerringly tell time, and a big enough slice could power a mill. But under any significant load, such as gearing to transform a 24-hour rotation into a faster one, the rock tends to pulverize itself against the metal. The Industrial Revolution came when scientists figured out two key tricks: blending and infusing the turnstone dust into harder metals, and a semi-mystical trick of using mirrored plates to allow it to rotate along any reference point. Power was now reliable, portable, and endless. Turnstone's only limitation is the science of metallurgy. Increasingly small, intricate, or powerful devices put strain on the gearing that requires increasingly durable metals to house the solargium. Power never runs out, but gears can strip out. Every year, the world's scientists and engineers make breakthroughs in what clockwork is capable of. Other sciences, such as chemistry, have lagged from what might be expected in an early modern society, due to the sheer ease of making discoveries of new applications for clockwork. Society has automobiles, electricity, clockwork wound weapons, and even intricate cybernetic prosthetics and automatons made of countless tiny gears. One of the properties of turnstone that scientists can use, but not explain, is that it responds to human will. A prosthetic arm or leg powered by solargium works as well or better than the original, with no clear reason for the interface with human nerves. The real problem with turnstone is that it's needed for everything. Having long exhausted its own reserves of the mineral, the globe's sole superpower, Vesipon, embarks on wars across the planet with increasingly thin pretexts in order to open up new mines for the material. And as I mentioned Vesipon and the wars, this touches on something you mentioned, that your character Raven is in the war. And actually all the characters are forced into being in the military service for some period of time. Because even though Shadow City is sort of our Casablanca, if you will, in the world, in the country of Vesipon, every single member within society has to serve to help gather this material across the globe for its country. So now, going back to the city, Shadow City, also known as Soretta, but Shadow City is the common name that most people on the streets refer to it. How about telling us a day in the life of Raven? How does a typical day for Raven go?
A typical day. Well, it usually starts with coffee and a reminder that my roof still leaks. Um, After that, I usually check in with a local bookie. He's always got a list of people who suddenly forgot to pay their debts. Now, I don't break kneecaps. That's sloppy work. I just find them, slip into their routines, appear where they don't expect me to, and remind them that silence isn't free and neither is luck at the tables. The rest of the day, I practice my craft, moving through the city, drifting from place to place, seeing how close I can get without being noticed, eavesdropping on conversations in cafes, listening at doors, picking up whispers in alleyways. It keeps me sharp. It pays off when it counts. By evening, I've usually collected enough rumors or favors to trade up the chain. And if I'm lucky, I get to finish the day watching the city lights or gambling at the broken dice. Not glamorous, but in my line of work, typical days rarely are.
Well, and on one of these days, while you're listening in a cafe, you pick up the voice of someone who actually says your name and calls you over. Though you know there's no way they saw you. However, for some reason, you definitely heard them distinctly say your name and invite you for a seat at their table.
This, of course, makes me nervous. I'm trying to be unseen.
Would you like to roll perception and see what you might notice?
Sure. Yes.
All right.
Find my character sheet.
Should be under
It
journals.
is. I just didn't open it.
That's all right.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
All right. So perception. Did that roll?
It did not. I did not hear it, at least. Oh, wait, maybe it did. It did. It did. You rolled a 15. So there we go. So on a 15, you notice sitting in a cafe having a drink is a pale figure draped in fine kimono-styled silks paired with perfectly pressed trousers. They also have a delicate parasol in one hand, kind of leaning against the table, and a tiny stylish hat perched just atop their head. Their watchful eyes take in every detail without a word. You notice that there is a crest upon their lapel, and it's the only symbol they appear to be wearing. Also, they have very pale skin and, like I said, a small fashionable hat that stands out immediately. They have immaculate clothing and an ever-present parasol, and their movements are very controlled, with every gesture purposeful. Their eyes are scanning the cafe without haste, yet are missing nothing. Behind them is a tall man in a sleeveless button-up shirt and suspenders. His frame is made broader by the unnatural size of his arms. He has a bowler hat that shades part of his face, though the glint of mechanical jawwork is unmistakable. His clothes are pressed and spotless, his shoes polished to a mirror shine, and he carries himself with the posture of a soldier and the silence of a watchman. He, too, has a crest upon his suspenders. Now, let me just check one other thing. You also notice above them is a raven with a cataract-clouded eye that gives it a strange look. Its gaze feels oddly fixed and sharper than most birds. And there's a ripple of faint static that crackles around it, like heat off of a stone. This seems to be the direction of where the voice that calls your name is from.
My interest perked. I'm going to make my way to the table.
All right. Would you like to make an insight or any other?
Yeah, especially, do I recognize either of these two people or have any idea who they are, kind of thing?
No, I mean, I'll give you a little bit more about the larger man. So you notice he has a jaw that's mechanical, and he has oversized prosthetics as well, right? You notice that their prosthetics are unusually clean and muted. And they're not the brass or iron common in the city. And you also catch faint markings etched into their metal. They're military symbols, though not immediately identifiable. You could possibly roll a history check to see if you understand a little bit more about that. You could make insight checks against them as well. And if you want, you can make a nature or animal handling check about the raven.
I think I'll do the history check, especially for the military medals, because that's something I might know.
Sure. Well, I think you do. So the insignia is the Vassaponian military in origin. So and also suggests that they were in service to the Navy of Vassapon. And you do recall rumors of a man dishonorably discharged under mysterious circumstances that might match the description of this individual. And you believe the name is Hans.
Okay. I guess I'm going to go to the table and see what they have to offer me.
So the person in front of you greets you. Greetings, Raven. I believe that's the moniker you go by.
It is, and you are?
Ah, yes, Miss Dreadmire.
Does that name mean anything to me?
No, not right off the bat. No. You walk unseen, yet the blood you carry shines brighter than you know. How Skye has taken an interest in you. We have come to offer what others would never dare, a summons to your birthright. And she looks at you kind of to see your reaction to that statement.
I'm a little bit surprised. And
then Hans just kind of says, Skye Estate, at week's end, there will be others.
Well, thank you for the invite. I'll consider it.
Good. You already understand what others will take time to learn. This is not simply an invitation. It's an ascension. You will be stepping into a life far larger than you imagined. And they hand over a folded black card with the Skye crest that they wear on their chest, pressed in burnished gold. And they present it to you with ceremony, almost as if it was a relic.
I accept it. And my character right now is kind of all over the place just because she's been an orphan her whole life, basically. And she's being invited to a family, and that it perks her interest by far, but it also is just a lot for her to like process at that moment.
Mr. Admire closes with, congratulations, Raven. You have just been handed your ticket to a whole new life. Blood ties open doors no infiltrator could ever force. Accept, and you will discover what it means to be both shadow and legacy.
Thank you. And Raven leaves kind of quietly and goes back into the shadows.
As you leave, you just hear the tap of the parasol on the ground as they walk off. You notice that Hans lingers a little bit, kind of watching the direction you went before following behind. And then in turn, the raven ruffles its feathers once and then vanishes into the night sky. Do you look at the invite?
Yes, absolutely. Once I am by myself,
yeah, of course,
and,
yeah.
you know.
So the invite inside says, by the will of Eston Skye, your presence is required at the Skye Estate at week's end. Attend and take your place in the legacy of House Skye.
I put the ticket to House Skye in my pocket and go about my day.
And the week goes about as normal for Raven, and then when they're ready to head out to the address, you note that it is, and I will kind of show it here. Well, that might be hard to see. Let's do it this way. There we go. So the main city itself is all this area here. So places you're familiar with, such as the Broken Dice that you mentioned, right, is over here in Little Singara and in Midtown. And the address you've been given to the Skye Estate is way out in the rich ass part of town in Silverwood, way from everyone else. However, depending on how you get there, when you do get there, you do know that the Skye Estate is still quite a large place within the city, and you may have seen photos of it in papers and stuff like that. But it has definitely fallen from its once grandeur and is very much in disrepair, and is in a desperate need of renovation and upkeep. So, how like before we close this out, how would Raven go about getting to the estate at the time of the party or the event? It's not really a party.
So it's pretty far away. She obviously doesn't really have her own mode of transportation. So the best case scenario would be a taxi.
Okay. Yeah. Those are available. I mean, you could run to the, I mean, these triangles are the trains that run. So you could get the baby Skye Crest and then take the east side way.
Yeah. It was too far away to just take by train. So I'd get as close as I could to save money, and then.
All right. And then as you approach the estate, you do see that there are lights mostly in the front of the estate itself. The rest of it seems to be pitch black. Either not in a
Raven's-
state of keeping the lights on, or there's no need to keep the lights on in those parts of the estate at this point.
Raven feels comfortable in that.
And you do see, and then about this point, you see other people gathering upon the. Just a question for you: would Raven arrive extra early, on time, a little bit late?
She would probably arrive early, but not actually enter, and just kind of watch for a while, see what see the other people, see if she can pick anything up, kind of thing.
Excellent. All right. Well, that will close and prepare for the basically start of our first actual play with all the characters on October 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch TV at Play On Words, and also YouTube at Play On Words Studios. And before then, hopefully you're watching this on Twitch TV and YouTube, so you already know where to go. But yeah, thank you so much, Mandy. And I'm looking forward to seeing Raven come even more alive in the city, and seeing how they take to their new family. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, and I also cannot wait for that day. So looking forward to this game starting.
It's sooner than we think. All right.
Yes, it is.